Hi, welcome to the Crafts channel. My name's Corinne and today I'm not making anything particularly Christmassy, but I'm making something that's really nice as a Christmas present, especially for someone that's trying to live a more sustainable life and be a bit more environmentally friendly. The traditional bee symbol, which is worldwide recognised as associated with nature, and everybody loves them. Now this has been cut from 100% cotton fabric and then appliqued on, and we've cut it with the Silhouette Cameo 4 because the Cameo 4 now has a rotary blade. Very simply, just like your normal rotary cutter that you'd use for quilting, but in miniature form, and it just fits into carriage 2 of your Cameo machine. And then you can operate the machine from your laptop like you would with any sort of paper cutting project or vinyl cutting project to cut out your fabric. Now I've chosen a design from the free library, which is the bee, and what I've done is I have unwelded the components and put them on different areas of the cutting mat so that I can cut every colour of fabric in one pass. I've seen how big the area is that each of them take. I've backed my fabric with a fusible adhesive, and when you do this, remember before you stick it on your cutting mat to take the backing off, because the glue that holds, or the friction that holds the adhesive onto the backing paper is not good enough to hold it when it's being cut. If you just stick your backing paper onto the mat, your fabric will shift on it. So make sure you take that off. Take your protective sheet off your cutting mat, and then looking at your screen, lay your fabric pieces in the correct areas on your cutting mat. So that's a dark blue for the body instead of the traditional black. There's a pale blue here for his wings, and a yellow-orange spot for his stripes. And if your mat's relatively new, you shouldn't need to do this, but if you've cut a fair bit of fabric on it and you've got some fluff on it, you might just want to use a brayer to ensure that your fabric is stuck well to the mat. And then, as usual, you position your mat against the guideline and you feed it in. Now when you come to cut it, so you've got your design on screen, you'll go to send, and normally when it comes up with send you'll have the simple menu to start with. If you select your thin cotton fabric, the fact you want to cut it with an auto blade, and then you go to the line menu, it gives you the option of which tool to use, whether you use carriage 1 or carriage 2. Now this is really important because 8 times I tried to cut this and then realised that I wasn't loading carriage 2, I was loading carriage 1 and it wasn't doing anything. If you've got a Silhouette machine, it might be advisable to read the basic instructions on it, or you could just listen to me making mistakes and then realising what I've got wrong. So carriage 2, 1 and 2 are simply up here. That's carriage 1. No tool is detected. Carriage 2, the auto rotary cut blade is detected. And also what it does is when you load carriage 2 is it centres carriage 2, so it cuts in the right place. I'm just going to put the speed up a little bit to about 3. It's ready, it's willing, and I'm going to send this to cut. And just before I send it to cut, you will notice on here there are various other red cut marks which don't seem to bear any resemblance to what you're cutting. What that is the rotary cutter needs to readjust the angle of its blade. So as it's cutting the curve of the bee's body, it will get to there, and then rather than trying to reverse the direction of the blade up at about 20 degrees, it will come down a bit, do a little 140-degree circuit and go back up. And it's the same anywhere that you see these little cuts. They are just for the blade to readjust itself. So I'm going to send this to cut. As I say, this is still going to take probably about 4 minutes. So come and see me again when it's cut out. So it's finished cutting. Bit the mat out. And as you can see, you have a nice clean cut. Oh look, as usual, blue on blue. So let me just weed these pieces out and I'll show you what we do next. So I'm just taking the fabric away from that last bit, and this is around the bee's antennae. Just be really careful in case there are sections where you've just got one thread that's caught it on there. And then what you can do is simply peel each individual piece from your cutting mat. They're the bee pieces. This is the bee itself. And I'm just going to show you how easy it is to fuse these pieces. So get yourself an ironing board. Don't ever iron onto your cutting mat because it will warp it. And I've got here a bit of hexagon fabric and I've backed it with a layer of medium weight quilt wadding. Just put your iron on a medium setting and give your fabric a quick press to start with. And then position your pieces into the centre of your backing fabric. It's quite nice if you've got something like a hexagon fabric, if you can line it up to the centre of the hexagons, because then you can also judge that you've got your wings level. I'm actually going to pop his wings up a little bit compared to the original, and then pop your stripes across your body. That looks fairly symmetrical to me. And then rather than ironing it in an ironing motion, just start by pressing it, because that way you will bond the fusible adhesive to the backing without shifting it out of position. So once that's fused, just give it a minute or so to cool down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to applique those pieces on with a sewing machine. And I'm going to set my sewing machine to quite a narrow zigzag, about 1.5 centimetres. And about 1 millimetre long on each piece. And I'm going to start with the yellow bits. Pop it in your sewing machine with your correct colour thread. And I'm not going to applique this whole bee. But I just want to show you how effective it is if you actually top stitch your pieces in place with a similar colour thread to the material that you're using. I've got like a greeny blue colour thread. And just a quick note, the reason I've backed this with a piece of quilt wadding is so that when you put it in your cushion cover, you can have the lumpiest cushion in the world. But if you put that layer of quilt wadding underneath your applique design, it smooths the whole thing out, makes it look so much better. So there's just one wing. So then I'm just going to do a little bit of the bee's body in this dark royal blue. And always do your main colour last. Because then that will bind all the edges of the other colours, and it will give your bee a definite outline. So I'm not going to sew the rest of that, mainly because I've thrown my yellow thread across the floor and I can't find it to finish the rest of the stripes on it. But when you've done that, you end up with an image like this, and then all I've done is I've added a border of the same colour as the bee, and I've turned it into an envelope back pillowcase. If you have a search actually through our library of videos, There is a very easy tutorial how to make an envelope back cushion cover. And it's exactly the same as this, except it's square, whereas this is a rectangle. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you soon. If you've enjoyed videos by the Crafts channel, hit the like button. Want to see more of us? Then click subscribe. See you next time.